Have you ever stopped to consider how the words you speak, whether to others or to yourself, shape your reality? It's easy to overlook the power of language, but the way we communicate plays a huge role in how we perceive challenges, interact with others, and ultimately grow as individuals. Every phrase we use is either reinforcing a fixed mindset or encouraging a growth-oriented one, and highly intelligent people understand this. Language doesn't just reflect our thoughts, it actually influences them. The way we speak can affect how we feel, how we respond to failure, and how we engage with opportunities. That's why truly insightful individuals are incredibly intentional with their words. They avoid certain phrases, not because they're offensive or inappropriate, but because these phrases shut down curiosity, limit self-belief, or hinder progress. In this video, we're going to explore 10 phrases that highly intelligent people never use. These aren't toxic or inherently bad statements, but they do tend to close doors rather than open them. Each of these phrases represents a way of thinking that can quietly sabotage growth, learning, and meaningful connection with others. By recognizing and replacing these common expressions, you can start to shift your mindset and unlock a deeper level of personal development. Whether you're aiming to be a better leader, a more thoughtful communicator, or simply more self-aware, this list will offer practical takeaways you can apply right away. We'll not only highlight the phrase, but also explain why it can be harmful and offer a more empowering alternative you can use instead. So, if you're ready to upgrade your language and your mindset, let's get started. Phrase number 1, I'm just not good at this. It might sound innocent, even humble, but this simple sentence is a subtle way of giving up before you've even started. Have you ever found yourself tuning out as soon as someone starts talking about something you think you already understand? The phrase, I already know that, might seem harmless, but it can quietly shut the door on learning, growth, and connection. It's a common reflex, especially in conversations where we feel confident or experienced, but it's also a sign of a fixed mindset. Highly intelligent people avoid this phrase because they recognize a deeper truth. Knowledge isn't static. Even when you're familiar with a topic, someone else's perspective might reveal a nuance you've never considered or connect dots in a way you hadn't thought of before. By claiming, I already know that, we not only dismiss the other person's input, but we also rob ourselves of the opportunity to learn something new or reinforce our understanding in a fresh context. True intelligence is rooted in intellectual humility, the understanding that no matter how much we know, there is always more to learn. This doesn't mean doubting your knowledge. It means staying open to the idea that every conversation can offer insight. Instead of shutting down the discussion, try reframing your response to show curiosity. A simple shift like, that's interesting. How did you come to that conclusion? Or, I've heard something similar, but I'd love to hear your take on it, invites dialogue and demonstrates a willingness to listen. It encourages deeper connections and might even teach you something new. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus wisely said, it is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows. That quote hits hard because it's true. The moment we believe there's nothing more to learn, we stop growing. Stoicism teaches the value of humility, patience, and self-awareness, qualities that align closely with emotional intelligence and open-mindedness. Here's a simple challenge. The next time you're tempted to say, I already know that, pause. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this version of the information? What might I be missing? Lean into curiosity instead of certainty. This mental shift transforms everyday conversations into opportunities for growth. By dropping this one phrase and embracing a more curious, open approach, you'll not only expand your knowledge, but also become someone others genuinely enjoy talking to. At first glance, that's not my problem might sound like a boundary setting statement, but in most cases, it's actually a wall that separates us from others, shuts down empathy, and weakens our sense of shared responsibility. It's a phrase often used to create emotional distance, to avoid involvement, or to protect our time and energy. But in doing so, we risk damaging relationships and missing opportunities for deeper connection. Highly intelligent people tend to avoid this phrase, not because they say yes to everything, but because they understand that emotional intelligence is just as important as logic or knowledge. They recognize that the world is not a collection of isolated individuals, but a network of interdependent people. Whether it's in the workplace, in our families, or in our communities, we are constantly impacting and being impacted by those around us. When someone brings a problem to you, it may not be your responsibility to fix it, but the way you respond can have a lasting impact. A dismissive, "that's not my problem," can damage trust, while a small show of empathy can strengthen connection and build goodwill. Intelligent people approach these moments with emotional awareness and a willingness to support, even in small ways. Instead of turning away, try a response that shows empathy or offers limited but genuine support. Something like, "I hope you're able to figure it out. Do you need someone to talk it through with?" Or, "Is there any small way I can help?" These responses acknowledge the issue without overcommitting and show that you care, even if you can't solve it. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher, once said, "What harms the hive harms the bee." This powerful metaphor reminds us that we're all connected. When we ignore the needs of others, we ultimately weaken the very systems we rely on ourselves. Even a small act of empathy or assistance can contribute to a stronger, healthier environment for everyone. Here's a practical tip. Look for one small way each day to step outside your own concerns and offer help or kindness to someone else. It doesn't have to be dramatic. A listening ear, a helpful suggestion, or even just a kind word can go a long way. By replacing "that's not my problem" with even a moment of empathy, you not only elevate your emotional intelligence, you also build trust, credibility, and stronger relationships. And that, in any area of life, is a mark of true intelligence. Few phrases are as casually damaging as "I don't care." It's often said in moments of boredom, frustration, or disinterest, but its impact goes far deeper than we realize. Whether spoken to end a conversation, dismiss a concern, or show detachment, "I don't care" sends a powerful message. You or this topic don't matter to me. Highly intelligent people tend to avoid this phrase because they understand its effect on relationships. Dismissiveness doesn't just shut down a conversation, it erodes trust, signals emotional unavailability, and discourages people from opening up in the future. In both personal and professional settings, how we respond to others, especially when we're not particularly invested, says a lot about our character. Intelligence isn't just about knowing facts, it's about knowing people. Emotionally intelligent individuals recognize that they don't have to be deeply interested in a topic to be engaged in a conversation. Sometimes it's not about the subject, it's about the person sharing it. Showing a little interest can make someone feel seen, heard, and respected. And more often than not, that simple act of engagement leads to learning something unexpected or building a stronger connection. Rather than saying, "I don't care," reframe your response to show curiosity, even if it's minimal. You might say, "That's interesting. How did you get into that?" Or, "I hadn't heard about that before. Tell me more." These responses are light, non-committal, and yet they invite dialogue and demonstrate respect for the other person's interests or experiences. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, reminds us of our shared humanity with his words, "We are waves of the same sea, leaves of the same tree." Even when conversations feel small or disconnected from our world, we're still engaging with another human being, another leaf on the same tree. Each interaction offers a chance to foster understanding, compassion, and connection. Here's a practical tip. The next time you feel disinterested in a conversation, pause. Instead of disconnecting, try asking an open-ended question. Something as simple as, "What do you enjoy most about that?" can shift your mindset from indifference to curiosity. You don't have to become an expert on the topic. Just being present and attentive is enough. In a world that often feels rushed and transactional, curiosity is a quiet superpower. Ditching the phrase, "I don't care," and choosing to engage, even briefly, can strengthen your relationships and deepen your understanding of the people around you. And that ultimately is a hallmark of real intelligence. Few phrases shut down a conversation faster than "you're wrong." While it might feel like a direct way to challenge misinformation or disagreement, it often does more harm than good. When we tell someone they're wrong, we trigger defensiveness, turn the conversation into a debate, and shift the focus from learning to winning. The goal becomes proving a point rather than understanding a perspective. Highly intelligent people avoid this phrase because they know that the most valuable conversations come from seeking truth, not scoring points. They understand that disagreement doesn't have to mean conflict. It can be an opportunity for mutual growth. By choosing their words carefully, they keep conversations open, respectful, and productive. Rather than saying, "you're wrong," intelligent communicators use language that invites discussion. A better approach might be, "That's an interesting perspective. Here's how I see it." This kind of phrasing acknowledges the other person's viewpoint and sets the stage for dialogue instead of argument. It signals that you're more interested in exchanging ideas than in being right. Marcus Aurelius captured this mindset beautifully when he said, "If someone can prove me wrong and show me my mistake, I will gladly change. It is the truth I seek, and the truth never harmed anyone." This Stoic wisdom reflects a powerful idea. Admitting we're wrong is not a weakness, it's a strength. It shows we value truth over ego and are always willing to learn. Approaching disagreements with humility doesn't mean you have to agree with everything. It simply means you're willing to listen, reflect, and respond thoughtfully. By leading with curiosity rather than correction, you keep the door open for meaningful exchange. And sometimes you might even change your own mind. Here's a practical tip. The next time you disagree with someone, start by validating something in their point of view. You could say, "I see where you're coming from," or "That's an angle I hadn't considered." Then calmly share your perspective. This small shift in approach reduces defensiveness and encourages open-mindedness on both sides. Ultimately, saying "you're wrong" may win the moment, but it rarely wins hearts or minds. By choosing respect and humility, you can turn disagreements into learning opportunities. And that's a mark of real intelligence. At first glance, "I can't do that" might sound like an honest admission of limits. But more often than not, it's a reflection of a closed mindset, a belief that our abilities are fixed and that growth isn't possible. This phrase doesn't just stop action, it stops potential before it even has a chance to take shape. Highly intelligent people avoid saying "I can't do that" because they understand that most limitations are temporary, not permanent. They view challenges not as roadblocks, but as invitations to learn, adapt, and grow. When faced with something they've never done before, they don't default to doubt. They lean into the opportunity. This mindset shift is at the heart of lifelong learning. Intelligent people know that competence isn't something you're born with. It's something you build through effort, persistence, and curiosity. Rather than seeing a gap in knowledge or skill as a dead end, they see it as a path to discovery. Instead of saying, "I can't do that," try reframing with possibility. "I'll figure that out," or "I'd like to learn how to do that." These phrases open the door to growth and signal a belief in your ability to improve. They don't deny difficulty, but they refuse to be limited by it. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, wrote, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare, but because we do not dare that they are difficult." In other words, many of the challenges we face feel impossible, not because they truly are, but because we've never taken the first step. The Stoic mindset embraces difficulty as a necessary part of progress, a way to sharpen both character and capability. Here's a practical tip. The next time you catch yourself thinking "I can't," pause and ask, "What would I need to learn to make this possible?" Or, "Who could I ask for guidance?" By replacing "I can't" with curiosity or a plan of action, you train your brain to search for solutions instead of excuses. No one starts out knowing everything, but those who succeed are the ones who choose to believe they can grow. Letting go of "I can't" is a powerful first step toward discovering just how capable you really are. We've all heard it or said it, "That's impossible." It's a phrase that often comes up when an idea feels too ambitious, a problem seems too complex, or the odds look overwhelmingly against us. But while the words might feel like a rational response to difficulty, they often serve as a mental barrier that shuts down creativity, problem solving, and progress before they even begin. Highly intelligent people tend to avoid saying "that's impossible," not because they believe anything can happen without effort, but because they understand the power of possibility thinking. They know that what seems impossible today might simply be unexplored, unattempted, or misunderstood. Instead of shutting down ideas, they ask, "What would it take to make this possible?" When intelligent people face tough challenges, they don't view them as dead ends. They see them as puzzles waiting to be solved. Their mindset is rooted in innovation and persistence. Whether they're working on a scientific breakthrough, a creative project, or a personal goal, they treat impossible as a temporary condition, not a final verdict. A better response than "that's impossible" might be, "that sounds challenging, but let's explore how we can approach it." This kind of language encourages exploration, teamwork, and creative thinking. It transforms an overwhelming problem into a curiosity-driven process. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, offers wisdom here. "I will encounter difficulties, but I'm equipped to face them." This Stoic mindset reframes adversity, not as something to be feared or avoided, but as something that reveals strength, resilience, and ingenuity. Challenges are not roadblocks. They are opportunities to grow stronger. Here's a practical tip. The next time something feels impossible, pause and break it down. Ask yourself, what's one small step I can take toward this? Or what part of this is actually within my control? Often, what feels impossible is just too large to tackle all at once. By breaking big problems into manageable pieces, you'll start to see progress and build confidence along the way. Impossible is often just another word for "I haven't figured it out yet." By removing that phrase from your vocabulary and replacing it with possibility-focused thinking, you open yourself up to solutions, creativity, and unexpected breakthroughs. And that's what truly intelligent people do. They don't avoid the hard stuff. They lean into it. That's just how it is. It's a phrase that often surfaces in moments of frustration or defeat, a way of explaining away a broken system, an outdated process, or a repeated disappointment. At first glance, it may seem like a neutral observation, but underneath, it often signals resignation, a quiet acceptance that things can't or won't change. Highly intelligent people avoid this phrase because they understand its hidden danger. It ends the conversation. It shuts down creative thinking, discourages action, and reinforces the idea that improvement isn't worth pursuing. Instead of seeking progress, it settles for stagnation. Intelligent individuals see the world not as something fixed, but as something malleable. They don't assume that the way things are is the way they must remain. Whether it's in business, relationships, or personal development, they constantly ask, how can this be better? This mindset is what fuels innovation, problem solving, and growth. Rather than saying, that's just how it is, try reframing with a question. What could we do differently? Or is there a better way forward? These simple shifts in language can open up entire pathways for improvement. They show a willingness to challenge the status quo and invite others to think collaboratively. The Stoics, ancient philosophers deeply focused on resilience and wisdom, offer a powerful reminder through the words of Marcus Aurelius. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. In Stoic thought, obstacles aren't excuses to give up. They are signals pointing toward where we must grow. Saying that's just how it is overlooks this principle entirely. It ignores the fact that change often starts when someone decides to question what's been accepted for too long. Here's a practical tip. When you catch yourself or someone else defaulting to this phrase, pause and ask, is this really the best it can be? Look for small areas where you can influence change. Progress doesn't require overhauling everything at once. It starts with a single challenge to complacency. Many of the biggest improvements in life, whether in technology, relationships, or mindset, began with someone refusing to accept that that's just how it is. By rejecting that phrase and adopting a mindset of continuous improvement, you position yourself as someone who leads, innovates, and grows. At first, saying you're lucky might seem like a compliment, an acknowledgement of someone's success or good fortune, but when you look closer, it often carries a subtle implication that their achievements were handed to them, not earned. It can unintentionally dismiss the countless hours of effort, preparation, and resilience that went into getting where they are. Highly intelligent people avoid saying you're lucky because they understand that success rarely comes from luck alone. They know that behind nearly every lucky break is a foundation of hard work, planning, and persistence. To chalk it up to chance is to overlook the discipline and decisions that made that moment possible. It's not that intelligent people deny the role of opportunity. They simply recognize that being prepared to seize that opportunity is what really makes the difference. They focus less on chance and more on choices. That's why, instead of saying you're lucky, a more respectful and accurate response would be, you've worked really hard for that, or you really earned that success. This kind of language honors the process behind the outcome. It validates the effort someone has put in and shows genuine appreciation for their journey. Stoic philosopher Seneca put it best when he said, "Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity." The Stoics believed in earned success, in the idea that fortune favors those who are disciplined, diligent, and ready when the moment arises. They taught that we should never rely on chance, but should instead build ourselves into people who are prepared for whatever life throws at us. Here's a practical tip. The next time you're tempted to say someone's lucky, pause and think about what they likely did behind the scenes. Consider the time they spent learning, failing, growing, and persevering. Shift your language to reflect that. Something as simple as, "I admire how consistent you've been," or "that must have taken a lot of effort," shows deeper respect and encourages a growth mindset. When we attribute success purely to luck, we not only diminish someone else's journey, we also shortchange ourselves. Because if their success was just luck, then what hope do we have? But if it was earned, then we can learn from it, be inspired by it, and follow our own path to meaningful achievement. Intelligent people don't believe in passive luck. They believe in preparation, persistence, and purpose. And that's what truly moves us forward. How often have you caught yourself saying, "I'm not good at that"? Whether it's a new skill, a challenging task, or something outside your comfort zone, this phrase can feel like a simple admission of weakness. But when we say it, we're not just stating a fact. We're locking ourselves into a fixed mindset that limits growth and development. At its core, "I'm not good at that" assumes that abilities are fixed, that we're either born with a certain skill set or we're not. But the truth is, most abilities aren't innate. They're developed over time through practice, persistence, and learning from failure. By saying, "I'm not good at that," we close the door on the possibility of improvement. We stop trying before we've even started. Highly intelligent people avoid this phrase because they understand that their abilities are always evolving. They see challenges not as roadblocks, but as opportunities to learn, adapt, and grow. Instead of saying, "I'm not good at that," they embrace a mindset of continuous improvement. They understand that skill is something to be developed, not something you're born with. Instead of giving up and labeling yourself, try reframing the statement with a growth mindset approach. "I'm still learning that," or "I'd like to improve at that." This language signals that growth is possible and that you're committed to becoming better. It acknowledges that mastery takes time and effort, and that failure is just part of the learning process. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher, reminds us that obstacles are not things to be avoided, but opportunities to grow. He said, "What stands in the way becomes the way." In other words, the things that challenge us are often the very things that help us improve. Stoics believe that difficulties and setbacks are not just obstacles. They are stepping stones to personal development. Every time we push through a challenge, we expand our capacity and understanding. Here's a practical tip. The next time you find yourself saying, "I'm not good at that," pause and shift your focus. Ask yourself, "What can I do to improve?" Or "What steps can I take to get better at this?" Break the task down into smaller, more manageable goals. Celebrate the progress you make along the way, no matter how small, and remember that growth is a process, not an overnight result. By reframing "I'm not good at that" to "I'm still learning," you free yourself from the confines of a fixed mindset and open up the space for endless growth. And that's the true essence of intelligence, the willingness to keep learning no matter where you start. We've covered 10 phrases that highly intelligent people never use and explored the alternative approaches that promote growth, learning, and deeper connections. From "I already know that" to "you're lucky," each of these phrases represents a mindset that limits potential, either by closing the door on new ideas, stifling curiosity, or attributing success to mere chance. The intelligent alternative isn't about perfection, but about creating space for improvement and fostering a growth-oriented mindset. As we move forward, I invite you to reflect on the language you use. Which of these phrases do you catch yourself saying? Which ones are holding you back from reaching your full potential? Identifying them is the first step to growth. But change doesn't stop with awareness. It requires action. So challenge yourself to leave behind the phrases that limit you and embrace those that encourage learning, curiosity, and connection. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Which phrase are you most excited to leave behind? Let me know how you're shifting your mindset and language, and let's learn from each other's journeys. Remember, the words we speak have the power to shape our reality. By shifting the way we speak, we can change the way we think and ultimately change our lives. As the Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius wisely said, "The quality of your thoughts determines the quality of your life." When we choose to speak with intention, to reframe challenges as opportunities, and to embrace a mindset of growth, we begin to transform not only our language, but the very way we experience the world. If you found this video valuable, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with others who might benefit from this mindset shift. Together, we can create a community of learners, thinkers, and doers who are always striving to be better. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.